Hello and welcome to Courageous Conversations.
We're here to talk honestly about race, faith, and what it really means to love our neighbor at all costs.
Each and every episode, we are going to sit down with friends and leaders from across Kansas City to share stories. We're going to ask hard questions and we'll laugh a little bit along the way.
To unite people, unite neighborhoods, and eventually unite KC. Let's jump into today's conversation.
Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Ray Jarrett, and I'm here with my partner, Gary, and we are both from Unite KC. So, Gary, why don't you tell them what we're going to talk about, and we got something special lined up today.
We do. And thank you so much for joining. So in the Courageous Conversations podcast, our goal is to be able to talk about things that sometimes don't get talked about. And we like to lift the lid on conversations that anybody could get into, but sometimes because of fear or sometimes because it's just an unknown to them, they're unwilling. And our hope is that as we dive in here, it'll embolden you to have conversations like these. And today we welcome Dayton Moore as our guest today.
Thanks, Gary. Great to be with you and Ray. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for making the time.
Hey, Gary, why don't you also tell them where they can find this podcast?
And you can find this podcast on Apple, on Spotify, Google Play, pretty much wherever podcasts are, any platform, you can find them. You'll always find them on our unitekc.org website.
Well, you know, as odd as it seems, Dayton, every now and then, it's probably one out of 100, I'll run into somebody who doesn't know who you are, even here in Kansas City. And so I could go on and on. We definitely have had success with you at the helm of the Royals, you know, World Series kind of stuff. And people may not know you are actually on the board of directors for Unite KC. Mm-hmm. But why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, and we can dive into some stuff.
Well, married to Mary Ann for 33 years, 3 wonderful children that truthfully she raised. She's definitely been the GM of our house. And yep. Ashley, our oldest, has been serving as a missionary in the country of Panama the last 4.5 years. And Avery, our middle, proud graduate of K-State. And she's been working with Maiden KC here.
Oh, yeah.
Really? And working with their leadership team, and she loves that culture. And then our son Robert is 23, and he's a minor league player with the Phillies, but we love Kansas City and love what this community represents, how we lead in this community, and just so proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, Dayton, I tell you what, why don't you talk a little bit about your impact here in the community? There's been some great things you've done. For instance, see you in the Major Leagues Foundation. And actually, we'll talk a little bit about the Urban Youth Academy, too, in just a few.
Well, you mentioned, we're just blessed to be a part of the community. And, we just want to, use whatever talents that we have to get involved and let people know that we care deeply about what they're experiencing. And, I learned a long time ago that, in leadership, it's about putting others first. Mm-hmm. And you got to want the exact same thing for other people's children as you want for your own. And that's kind of how we've went about our leadership journey.
That's good.
From day one. We started our C in the Major Leagues Foundation just really to give back to the community. And it's turned into, our mentoring program that we're in our 8th year. And we've got 20, young people from 15 to 17 that are, in our program right now, and it's a year-long program, and we've had great success with it. Matt Folks, our director, has done an amazing job, and Kramer Kryling as well. And so we're just proud, the work that the foundation's doing, and proud with what Unite KC continues to do, and what the individuals involved with Unite KC represent. And I think it's really, really important that we continue to get involved and spread the word of who we are and what we do and how much we care.
Yeah. So, Gary, why don't you kind of tee Dayton up? There's some great things that he's done in the community, specifically the Urban Youth Academy.
Okay. And by the way, we shouldn't probably talk about the wild card race right now with Texas and Kansas City.
It's the least of my concerns, Gary. You know what? The players are the ones that play. The players are the ones that get it done or don't get it done, especially this time of year. So
it is exciting.
It's important just to enjoy enjoy the game, enjoy the stories of the players,
Right.
the drama that unfolds each and every night. The thing I love about baseball is no two games are the same.
That's
You,
true.
you have a plan going in to the game. Once the umpire says play ball,
Right.
things change, and
Right.
that's what makes it fun to be a part of and follow. So
Yeah, it's exciting to be playing meaningful ball in September.
Yeah, always,
So that's
always,
always
sure.
good. So Ray and I have actually had this conversation before. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. We've talked about how that sometimes people struggle to have conversations when they're at work or when they're with their friends, but somehow when they're at a ball game or they're in a bar
Yeah.
and they're watching their favorite team, everybody loves everybody. It doesn't matter about race or color. If it's your team, you're together, and by the end of the night, you're probably friends. And we were just thinking about how that sports seems to bring people together, and I've seen that to be true in the teams that you've
Yeah.
participated in and led. Can you talk a little bit about what happens in that setting that maybe we could take it onto a different setting?
Yeah. Well, leaders are the ones that shape culture, right? And so the players, the people are the ones that grow the culture. The people you hire,
Right,
the
right.
employees, the players in the clubhouse, they grow the culture, but the leaders are the ones shaping it. And so I think it's really important to understand that. The other part of that is whatever you want your culture to look like, as the leader, you need to model it.
Right.
If you want generosity, you need to be generous. If you want forgiveness and grace showed amongst your fellow employees and players, you need to show it as well.
That's good.
And so whatever you want it to look like, whatever character traits you want your culture to embody, you as the leader must model them. Okay, that's so important. But one of the things that I learned a long time ago in watching, professional baseball players come together, when they leave spring training, you have 25 players, all different religions, different economic backgrounds, different cultures, Latinos, African American, poor white kids from the country, wealthy white kids from the suburb, whatever the case may be, right? And they have this commonality, and it's baseball, and they love baseball. And by the end of the year, they have learned to accept people's different religions, their different, lifestyles, their different upbringings, et cetera. Some kids are raised with mom and dad in the home. Some are raised with no mom and dad in the home, or just a mother or a father. It's all unique and it's all different, but they all come together. Why? They spend a lot of time with each other.
Yeah.
They get to know each other. They have conversations with one another. Plus, they understand, most importantly, that all their success is tied together. And they need one another to be successful. They can't do it by themselves. And so, and when they try, they learn the hard lesson of what failure really looks like and feels like. And it can be a very, very lonely journey if you're not doing it with others. And they also begin to understand that we're all different. And that's a good thing. We're different by design. God made us different. We're supposed to be different, okay?
Right.
He just doesn't want the kingdom of God, the unity of God, to come between your own different, ideas and unity and whatever you looks like. There's only God created that unity. God has created the template for that, and He wants you to be your own individual and have your differences and what have you. That's okay, but at the end of the day, it's God's kingdom. It's one kingdom, and He wants us all to unite. Behind that.
That's really good.
And that's what a team does.
Yeah. A lot of good life lessons.
Yeah, for sure. We could take away a lot from that, not being able to do it separately.
Yeah.
So Dayton, in line with some of the generosity and you actually kind of bringing the community together, you did a remarkable thing, in my mind anyway, is when we got that Urban Youth Academy built. But it didn't go just as smooth as we thought it was going to. Why don't you
Well,
kinda
a little
tell
bit of
us
the
about
history.
that?
You mentioned our C in the Major Leagues Foundation, right?
yes.
And so we were in the process of doing the C in the Major Leagues Baseball Academy. And we were, a good friend of mine, our name Randy Spalding, we were actually looking at land, and we were going to build this academy. And we were geared more towards kids from poor economic backgrounds that couldn't afford travel ball, and, just needed to, and they loved baseball and wanted to play baseball, but just really needed an opportunity to do so. And so we were in the process of creating the C in the Major Leagues Baseball Academy. Well, that summer I was out in Compton, in California, at the Compton Academy, that the Angels and the Dodgers are a part of. And one of my good friends out there asked me, said, would you guys like a urban youth academy in Kansas City? And I said, absolutely. We would love to have an urban youth academy in Kansas City. And certainly knew it would be much better than anything we could do with our academy to have the power of Major League Baseball behind us. And so we got back to Kansas City. Kyle Venn and I met with then Mayor James. Mayor James didn't even blink. He said, let's get this thing done. Let's do it. He secured the land next to the Negro Leagues Baseball Academy, which was an unbelievable setting for this. Parade Park was where we built the academy. Of course, that was kind of a rundown facility. And as we began to spread the message and motivate people to get behind it, it didn't take much convincing. And so we created this vision and we began the process. But we did run into some negativity as we met with some of the individuals. It was a vocal minority. It wasn't the majority of people, but some people said, you know what, we don't want white people from the suburbs down here at the 18th and Vine District. And then when we talked to some of the people from the suburbs, they'd say, you know what, we don't want to go down there. It's not safe. We don't want to be in that environment. We want to stay here in the suburbs. And so we looked at it as an opportunity. How do we bridge the gap between the urban and the suburban and the rural parts of Kansas City and use baseball and softball as an opportunity to bring people together from the urban areas, the suburban and the rural parts of Kansas City. And, we raised $21 million for that facility. Never been done. Never been done in the history of Major League Baseball, a facility like that.
It's
and
beautiful.
and so we were very proud. And Mr. Glass was very much on favor. And Mr. Glass, when we shared the idea with him, he was ready to go. He said, let's do it. And so the powers to be lined up, and now it was just getting the public on board. And so, but to your point is, when we had these discussions with people in the community to get involved, I mean, there was some pushback. And, we began to have conversations like this, okay? And I'd say, hey, look, I hear everything you're saying. There's a reason you feel this way. And probably because when you see white people in this community, maybe they're doing some things that, whether they're, knocking on your door or trying to arrest somebody, or you're just not comfortable, right? And then there's a reason you probably feel the way you do, right? And but how can we make sure that your children, your grandchildren don't feel this way?
That's excellent.
And so how can we make sure that mom and dad from the suburbs, you don't want to go down to the 18th and Vine District? How can we make sure that your children, your grandchildren get to experience the beauty and the history of the 18th and Vine District, and the love and the spirituality of the African American community and the togetherness of the African American community? I mean, you got to understand the strengths of what these communities represent. And Leadership 101 is go around the room and identify people's strengths. Don't focus on their weaknesses.
That's right.
Because you know what? If I focused on my weaknesses, Ray, I wouldn't even get out of bed in the morning.
Right, I get you.
And I want to focus on people's strengths. And so, I fell in love with different cultures as a young person growing up. By the way, I've always seen color. I've always been attracted to different cultures and different personalities. And I used to think there was something wrong with me when someone would say, as a leader, I don't even see color. And I'm like, boy, I do.
Yes.
I notice people's differences. And I gravitate towards those differences because I want to know their story. I want to know their journey. When people's stories get a chance to be told, that's when you start developing the compassion and the empathy for what they experience and what they go through. And it's just such a powerful thing to understand as a leader, is just to understand people's stories.
That's perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things I thought of when you were talking about, white people coming down to the suburbs, because I've had people say this to me before, that and these people are friends. I consider a person a friend when they're telling me the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, we don't want someone down here for a photo op.
Yeah.
No, we want someone who's going to come and stay and make a difference. And I often think if I'm not willing to kind of take the hardest thing someone says, receive it and thank them for it,
That's right.
then they're not going to trust me for the next thing they want to say.
Mhm.
Like, we aren't going to get anywhere. So if I get rebuffed by someone, I see that as like, move toward pain. It's probably
Yeah.
pain speaking. Move toward it. Ask more questions. Be available. And usually the barriers will come down.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's great. And again, I mean, I want to know why you feel the way you feel.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
I want to know why you don't want white people from the from the suburbs coming to the 18th
Yeah,
and Vine District. I
absolutely.
want to know why you, as a Caucasian from the suburbs, do not want to go down to the 18th
Right,
and Vine District.
right.
Those are the things we wanted to know, and we began to understand. You look in leadership. When I was blessed to start leading departments when I was 27 years old with the Atlanta Braves, people would say, well, the important thing is you got to try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I tried. I could never do that.
Mhm.
I could only look at life through my own eyes and my
Right.
own experiences.
Right.
And so therefore, I want to be able to sit down with other people and understand their experiences and what they went through and why they believe and think the way they do. Because if I went through exactly what they went through in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably look at life through the same
Yeah.
eyes,
Yeah.
and I'd feel the same way they did.
You know, Dayton, what you and Gary just talked about encapsulates our mission and our goal, because we've always believed if we can just get people to sit down and talk to one another with that empathetic ear that you've talked about, then they would have a heart change. And so
No doubt.
I guess my question is, why do you think Unite KC's mission, or do you think Unite KC's mission is still important and valid?
Well, this is what I believe. Looking at life through my own experiences, I've been blessed to travel all over the world where baseball's played.
Mm-hmm.
All over Asia, all over Latin America, all over the urban and the suburban and rural parts of the United States of America. And what I've learned is that moms and dads all over the world in all those places and all those homes, they want the exact same thing for their children as everybody else. Okay?
Wow.
We all want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We all want our children to be around people who care. People are going to give them multiple chances, going to give them some grace, obviously, when they make mistakes. We want them to be around leaders who are going to model good behavior, protect them, look out for them, help them uncover blind
Right.
spots. And I believe that's what Unite KC is about.
Yes, sir.
It's helping us uncover blind spots, help us understand that, we all are different by design, but at the end of the day, we're all seeking the same thing. We all want to be loved. We want to be respected. We want to have value. We want to have input, and we want to provide for our families, and we want our voices to be heard, in the community, and we want to be valued. And Unite KC represents all those characteristics that bring people together and allow people to be their authentic self.
Right.
So I've heard stories, but I have not heard them firsthand. Ray tells me that when after the murder of George Floyd, that you either text or called several people, and you kind of had the idea forming in your mind for Unite KC. But I'm curious to know what were the thoughts in your mind that caused you to make that text or that phone call? Like, what was the impetus that began something honestly that's had a ripple effect for 6 years?
Well, being a coach and learning this early on in my career as a director of player development, I realized pretty quickly if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten.
Yeah.
Okay. And we just keep making the same mistakes as a society and as a community. Okay. And by the way, the strength of our community, the strength of our police force, the strength of our schools, the strength of our churches is traced right back to the strength of the family. Okay, and so.
Yeah.
It's important
Right.
that we love families. We understand that every family, including mine, has a level of dysfunction and sometimes a real high level of dysfunction. And families all look differently, and we need to accept that and understand that. But the higher purpose in what we were trying to do with Unite KC, and in 2017, we took our entire leadership team, never been done in the history of baseball. We took our entire leadership team to Atlanta, Georgia, to study at the King Center and to study the leadership lessons of
I didn't know that.
of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And one of the most powerful statements that he would make, at least I felt, was he would say, power without love is reckless and abusive. Okay, and so people in power that generally don't love others are probably at some level going to abuse their power for selfish gain. Okay, where is that rooted? Well, it's rooted in who Jesus is, in the leadership lessons of Jesus, in loving my neighbor more than I love myself, and putting others first. And so the Gospels is the most important leadership absolutes are in the Gospels, and the Gospels are the result of the teachings and the leadership and the life of Jesus from Nazareth, and so that's the foundation of what Unite KC is all about. Whether you think Jesus is the Savior of the world, or you believe he's a great prophet, or you believe he was just a historical figure that lived a life well, you can't deny, in my opinion, if you study the Gospels, that he is the greatest leader of all time. And not only is the greatest leader of all time, he's the greatest competitor of all time, and he just happens to be my Savior and who I believe is, my greatest friend, on this, in my life and in my journey. And so we believed that Unite KC was important, and we didn't even have a name,
Right.
obviously. We just said, look, let's get men and women of faith together that understand that none of the issues of the day are solvable without accepting the leadership lessons of Jesus. And by accepting and following the leadership lessons of Jesus, as Dr. King was following through the Civil Rights Movement, and that was birthed in the Gospels, and Christianity and the lessons of Jesus. Jesus propped up women. Jesus
He did.
propped up the underserved.
He did.
Jesus propped up the weak, the neglected, the hurting, the disadvantaged, the malnourished. And we have to adopt those leadership lessons. And in doing so, maybe Jesus becomes real to you, and maybe he becomes your Savior. Maybe he becomes your teacher, whatever the case may be. And so we just rallied a group of men and women together of faith that said the problems of today are unsolvable without the faith community coming together. And even when it does come together, we're going to jack it up and mess it up. But we're going to make an advanced decision to show each other grace along the way in this journey. Look, when Gary, you're talking, or Ray's talking, and we're emotional about something, a lot of times it's hard to it's very difficult, if not impossible at times, to articulate emotions and frustrations. Dr. King could do it well.
Yeah.
Jesus did it the best.
He did.
And so we know when we sit down and have these types of discussions that things that I say may not come out right, but I want you to know my heart.
Yeah.
Like my heart's trying to get it right.
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 If we
But
talk
my
long
words-
enough, you'll get there.
Right, exactly. And then so that's kind of
That's great.
That's what Unite KC is about.
You said something right at the beginning of Unite KC's startup time that I thought was so good. I'll start it and you can finish it. You said this is not a black and white issue. It's
It's good versus evil.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and I'll
Right.
tell you where I first heard that. Jeremiah. I heard him first say that when we were getting involved with the Culture House and the underground performance.
right.
And Jeremiah said that, and I said, you know what, he's 100% right. And I remember he was talking to a group of elementary school kids, and he was trying to define that issue, and he said it's not about black versus white; it's about good versus evil. And we just happen to have. I think I get credit for saying that. That was Jeremiah that said that. I just have had more opportunity, I guess, to say it and pass that information on. But that's truly what it is.
Good.
So
That's good.
So Dayton, as we wrap up our time together, one of the things that the three of us have in common is that we actually love studying leadership and just always sharpening the saw and trying to get better, be a better leader, be a better, person who can treat others well. If you had to kind of encapsulate your leadership philosophy, in a couple of sentences, or 3 or 4, however many you want, how would you just come up with that? Because there's a lot of leaders that are listening to this podcast and they want to know how they can be effective in a diverse society.
Well, the first thing I would say, if there's anything good in me at all, it comes from God.
There you go.
Okay. And so, I've always felt that leadership begins and ends with putting others first. An effective, impactful leader needs to learn to listen, ask questions, be slow to anger, love people well. Again, all lessons that come out of the Gospels. I believe, as I said before, that Jesus is the greatest leader of all time. And he understands people better than anybody else. And he looks at the heart. That's how he evaluates. And it's not my job to judge others.
There you go.
But I'm going to look at people and look at their heart first. And that's what I want to be able to love people the way Jesus loves people. And he looks at the heart. That's how he looks at people. And I want to be able to do that as a leader. The data is important. I get it. Statistics don't lie. I understand. But oftentimes, it's the heart tells me to care more than anybody else on the planet. So I try to look at from the heart, and because I think that's how Jesus looks at people. He looks at their heart.
Yeah.
So putting others first. That's that's the bottom line. To do that, you've got to study Jesus, and you got to have people around you that understand that is your mission, and that are willing to hold you accountable when your flesh takes over.
Oh boy.
So
It's getting messy now.
And speak truth to you, and speak truth to you.
Yeah.
So,
Man, I feel like you could give me an altar call. I need to repent or something. So, Gary, you got anything?
I'll give you a shot at it. Yeah. One of the things that has so impressive to me about Jesus, Paul talked about it in Philippians chapter 2. And he talked about how that Jesus left all of the rights that he had to be born on earth and become a servant. And that he essentially was giving his life for us. And then Jesus said that in his own words when he said, if you want to lead others, the first thing is become a servant. And so just a real short phrase I keep in my mind throughout the day and where places I go is, how can I add value here? Like if I see you, Ray, as a human being made in the image of God, that means you automatically have value. It doesn't matter your race, color, your age, your belief system. You carry the image of God in you. And so when I'm in relationship with you, it's going through my mind. How would I serve you? How would I add value to your life in this setting through the things that we're doing, et cetera? And I feel like if I can keep that in my mind, no matter where I am, with young people, or if I'm in the inner city, if I'm in a foreign country, if I'm in my own home, and I'm talking to my wife, how do I add value to her? How do I serve her? That I'm sure that God will get me everything else that I need.
Man,
it's good.
Well, I would like to join in and give my ecumenical
Please.
stats.
I wasn't going to let you get away with if you didn't come out with yours. I was going to ask you point blank.
Well, I tell you what. I was raised here in Kansas City by both my parents, and my parents were insistent that I treat others well, no matter what they look like. They sent me to Christian school. And one of the things that happened to me when I was there at Christian school is I experienced a fair amount of, mistreatment, but I didn't understand it because I always thought, well, all of these concepts are in the Bible. Why don't people of faith, at least them, take it serious that just do unto others as you would have them, or treat others well, implement justice and equity in your life? I just didn't understand that if this was something that God had commanded, why it was so difficult. And so, I've always been just kind of, my clarion call is to, hey, just practice what your faith teaches. And for people who don't believe like we do, people of faith, if you're a person of faith in whatever religion you practice, I guarantee you your religion is calling for you to treat others well and to love others. And so that's what we want to stand on, and how we want to move our society and our city forward to where it's a beautiful city, as Dr. King called it. So, well, Dayton, I can't tell you how thankful we are for you being here, and thank you for all the good work that you're doing. You've always supported Unite KC. You were recently at the walk, and so we had some good pictures of you there, so we could. But at any rate, hey, just really appreciate you being here.
Right. Appreciate it, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Courageous Conversations.
We hope you heard something that encourages you to start these conversations in your own life.
Because when we talk, listen, and learn together, we move closer to uniting people, uniting neighborhoods, and uniting KC.
And don't forget, you can find more stories, events, and resources at unitekc.org.
So until next time, go love your neighbors at all costs.